Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Teresa Shields Parker. This is episode 34 of Sweet Grace for Your Journey podcast. I can't believe it's been 8 months already since I started doing this. It's actually only been a little over 9 months since God whispered in my ear about starting a podcast. This baby has definitely been birthed. And thanks to all of you who have subscribed, who listened each week, who post a review. That's really helpful if you do that. If you have a question or an issue that you'd like for me to address on this podcast, please send me an email to info@teresashieldsparker.com and put the word podcast in the subject line. And I might even talk about that on a future podcast. So today, I want to talk about this a little bit. What is the biggest issue you have regarding emotional eating? It's different for everyone, I know. But I asked my coaching group that question the other day, and one woman answered boredom. And I had to think about that for a while, boredom. Then she asked, is boredom a feeling? Now, this was a very intriguing question to me. I've never really considered boredom a feeling. I've always considered it a reaction to a circumstance, right? But then maybe every emotion at its core is what? A reaction to whatever circumstance we are in. I do know people who are just naturally happy and joyful, and they find the good in every situation. They are rarely sad. They don't like sad at all, and will quickly turn sad into glad by whatever means they have available, right? And then there are people who are just born as melancholy people. They see the problem before they see the solution. As a matter of fact, sometimes they only see the problems, and that kind of depresses them and makes them feel sadder than most people. Every morning on my Facebook page, which is Teresa Shields Parker, if you want to go there and like it and follow me there, I ask a version of this question. What is your word for the day? Or what is your prophecy for the day? Or what is God saying to you today? I get a lot of great positive answers. But what stands out to me are the negative ones, like their word for the day is exhausted, stressed, overwhelmed, tired, angry. These are the ones who see the negative side more than the positive. But these are also people who are not afraid to be honest about their feelings. And I am drawn to their boldness to admit where they are instead of smiling and saying, blessed, I'm blessed, when they really don't feel blessed at all. I think these types of individuals may define more of a personality type rather than responses to situations. In other words, their personalities help determine their actions and their reactions. But they still have emotional responses like crying at a funeral or laughing at a good joke, even if they are basically happy or sad people. Those are pretty much universal responses. So then, back to the original question, what is boredom? Is it a personality type? I mean, there are those who have a tendency towards being bored. And could all of these just be who we are, or is it something that we can change? And if we can stop being bored, do we really want to do that? You might say, why would anyone want to be bored? To me, boring is like a relative term, right? I live a pretty boring life compared to, say, Nick Walenda, the first human to ever tightrope walk across the Grand Canyon without any safety net or harness. I mean, the guy has a wife and 3 kids, and I definitely wouldn't want to be his wife. If my life is boring compared to his, I would prefer to be bored, right? So maybe there are times I would choose boring. Depends on what the other option is. You know, I remember shortly after my husband and I got married, he volunteered to help his amateur radio club put a new antenna on top of the water tower in the neighboring community. Now, like a good wife, I went with him to watch. He told me that he would be wearing a safety harness going up the tower and everything would be kosher. And that was true. He did wear a safety harness climbing up the side of the tower with the antenna strapped to his back. However, what he didn't tell me was when he got to the top, he had to climb the round-shaped top of the tower. So you climb up, and then you climb around. So it's climbing around that is the highest, right there, and most dangerous part of the climb. He had no harness because it's not possible to attach a harness while you're going around that section. It wouldn't be helpful. I was safe on the ground and clueless that he was doing this one part of the trek up the tower without any kind of physical safety device at all. And after then, I can tell you, I have not accompanied him on any other of his climbing adventures. I didn't want him to be stressed by my stress level of watching him. I knew he would be as safe as possible. I mean, he's kind of like a monkey. He loves to climb. He knows how to do it without taking unnecessary risks. But that level, I'd rather be bored than watch my husband climbing up a tower, a very high tower. Now, he's never bored because he has this myriad of hobbies that he enjoys, from ham radio to woodworking to gardening to motorcycle riding and all other kinds of things. Even sitting and watching television, he will be doodling or completing some kind of project. If he's bored, he manages it well. Now, me, on the other hand, I used to not manage boredom well at all. As a matter of fact, boredom eating was one of the main causes of me gaining up to 430 pounds. And then after a certain point, a person's weight fatigues them so much that they can't physically do much at all. So boredom really kicks in then. However, since we all have to eat, food becomes the only way we can think of to stave off boredom. Boredom then becomes a major issue in our lives because we are overeating because we are bored. So it merits us understanding where it comes from and how to get through it without damaging ourselves and our bodies and everything that happens. Boredom is really defined as a feeling of being uninterested in what you are doing. Now notice that word, the feeling of being uninterested in what you are doing. That means you are doing something at the time. You are in an activity, but you feel like that's not the most helpful thing for you to be doing. It really actually, that word really actually comes from a kind of drill used, and it's called a boring tool. Boring tool. Apparently it works very slowly and repetitively to bore a hole through something. Around 1760, to call someone a bore meant they were tiresome, like that tool. Like it just keeps going around and around. So the word boredom developed from there. It still seems to me it is not a feeling like happy, angry, depressed, elated, ashamed, or sad. It's a reaction to circumstances like a teacher droning on about a subject I'm not interested in. Or sitting through a high school or college graduation with 1,000 names being called while you wait for your child's name to be uttered so you can scream while they cross the stage. I mean, that's the one point that you're waiting for. Or waiting at the doctor's office, especially when you didn't bring a book, or these days waiting in the car for the doctor to call you to allow you to come in the door. You know, there's nothing to do. You're just there. Spending time in the hospital just waiting for the doctor to come and sign your release to go home. Or waiting to board an airplane, and the list can go on and on of things like that that cause us to be bored. I've not been surprised to find, as I've listened to various individuals tell me when they overeat, the most, that just sitting at home watching television makes them want to mindlessly eat chips, popcorn, ice cream, cookies, or anything else that they can find. They're trying to stave off boredom by watching television, and yet they are eating out of boredom as well. So television has become boring, and they're trying something else to not be bored. Many times when we are bored, there are circumstances that we can't change. However, there are those times that we're bored and we can change the circumstances. So for those we can't change, we can anticipate them and perhaps make a plan of how to get through it. You know, like we can know that we're going to the doctor's office, there may be a wait. So we might have a book that we take with us or something like that. There are times like that that we can plan ahead so that we aren't just sitting there bored and eating, I don't know, M&Ms that you might have in your purse or something. First of all, you shouldn't even have M&Ms in your purse. That would be another plan that you need to make. But there are many times that we can change the circumstances. We can make a better plan for what to do with our evening. So say we're watching television and that makes us want to eat. It's boring to us and it makes us want to eat. So maybe we need to take up a hobby that occupies our hands, like crocheting or something. If you want to watch television and you're crocheting or sewing or knitting, it's hard to eat at the same time. Or maybe you can make a plan to stop watching television and start working on a project at home, or engage in learning something else, or engage in how to do a new hobby. Learn something is better. It engages your mind. It helps you not be bored. You know, during these recent days that we've been stuck at home, even though I have plenty to do, there are times I have said, I'm bored. I don't want to write. I don't want to read. I don't want to watch another thing. I don't want to learn another thing. I wanted to go to my favorite pool and exercise there, but I couldn't because of the restrictions. Or I wanted to invite my small group over, but I couldn't because of restrictions. Or I wanted to have my extended family all together, but the pandemic restrictions just forbade it. I wanted to go to lunch with my friends, but there was nowhere to go. Now, praise God, I can do all of those things now as things are opening up. However, when I get bored with everything in my world, I love to just go for a drive. That's something that at least I could do that wasn't curtailed. A change of scenery always does a wonder for my spirit, especially if the sun is shining. But boredom is different for different people, exactly because of our personalities, like we were talking about before. For some people with low energy levels, when not much is going on, they feel relaxed. However, another person who has high energy level and is put in that same situation will be bored. They have energy and they want to do something. They need to find something that engages their minds. but usually what we do is try to engage our mouths instead. For those like me who want to have some measure of control over your circumstances, if we are in a situation where we are stuck for a long period of time without anything to do, or have no control over that line moving forward, we're going to be bored. So when we have control over what we are doing, we can choose to do something different. We can change things up to stop boredom from overtaking us. Unfortunately, this is where many of us make the mistake and make a choice to eat something that is off our chosen lifestyle plan, even though we aren't hungry. We eat because it's something to do. We aren't hungry, we just want to change the pace. It's an activity of sorts. Maybe it's just the simple act of getting up from where we are and walking to the kitchen. Like, that's a change of scenery, right? And maybe it's an activity of baking something, or even starting to make supper, even though it's nowhere near supper time. Overeating to relieve boredom is a real thing that so many of us fall prey to. Like any other kind of overeating, boredom eating relieves the feeling for a minute or two, but then we need more food to relieve that same problem. And it's really is an emotional problem, because we're eating to relieve something. We're eating, we say, to relieve boredom, but it could also be because we're a little bit sad or angry or lonely or frustrated. We really have to identify what's going on with us. And when we eat out of our emotions, we are trying to get rid of the monotony of whatever state we are in. If we eat to get rid of boredom, we're going to find ourselves using food as entertainment instead of fuel. And really, with most emotions, that's what we're doing. We're trying to elevate our emotion by eating. But food is not entertainment, folks. Now, when I stopped eating sugar and flour, first I stopped eating sugar, then I stopped eating flour. And there was a time in there when I realized that food was my main entertainment, was what I did. It's what I did. Going out to eat was a big entertainment for me. Just getting a snack was an entertainment. And I realized that that's what it had become in my life. It had become an entertainment, a way to kind of stave off the boredom, stave off the sadness, stave off any anger, just alleviate any kind of situation like that I didn't want to deal with at all. So maybe what we are craving is not the food, but interaction with others. If you can't go see them, call them, send them a text, write them a letter, do something creative for them. If you're lonely, that's one way to stave off that loneliness, boredom. So I think there are different aspects of boredom like that. Sometimes we're bored because we're lonely, we're stuck at home by ourselves. Sometimes we're bored because we are sad and we don't want to be in that kind of situation. Maybe we need to do something else to elevate our spirit. Sometimes we are bored because we are angry and we're tired of being stuck in that cycle of anger. So boredom really interacts with all of these kinds of emotions. So what if we did something else to make us happy? Like maybe watch a funny movie, read a joke book, find old pictures and go through them with family to remember great times. Maybe even take time to categorize those, provided that isn't boring to you. Engage in a hobby, take up a new hobby. It might be really good to learn how to play the guitar, crochet, paint, or plant a container garden. A new hobby might be just what you need to help keep boredom at bay. When we are bored, it's usually because what we are doing is either too easy or isn't challenging us. So we don't want to cause ourselves anxiety by doing things we think is something too difficult for us. But we can challenge ourselves and not worry about the outcome. Not try to be perfect at it. It's just, we see it as a learning experience. The other day, my daughter turned 30, and I decided I was going to paint a picture for her. Paint a picture of her wedding. I know a great person, a great friend of mine, Cindy Scott is her name, and she does wedding pictures. She does them at the site, and I thought, okay, I can take photographs of from Jenny's wedding, and I was there, so I know what happened, and I can paint this picture. Well, I'm glad I saw it as a learning experience, because it definitely didn't turn out like I wanted it to. But you know what? It was a good time to really kind of try something new and something different. I used to paint years and years ago, so I tried it. And now I know what I can do and what I can't do. But, it took me quite a bit of time during the day, about 6 hours that I worked on it. But it was really, it's that kind of thing that you can get lost in and not even remember what the time is. I think it was like 10 o'clock or so at night, and I didn't even realize it was 10 o'clock. And I just thought it had been a few hours. So those are the kind of things you want that's going to stave off the boredom or deal with the boredom. And I didn't even think about eating during those 6 hours. Many times boredom is related to our attention span as well. So whatever we are doing has not fully engaged our attention. So find something that really interests you, not just, something that you can do, not just something that you would ordinarily do. Do something new, like the painting project that I was doing. Those with the chronic attention issues like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder may have a high tendency for boredom. So if that's you, make sure the hobby you choose is interesting and challenging enough to keep you engaged. Now, the other thing is exercise. And yes, I know that's a bad word for many people, but when we get up from where we are and head to the kitchen, we can just as easily keep going and take a walk around the block, uncover that exercise bike or treadmill that's hidden under mounds of clothes, or even pop in an exercise video and work out for even 10 minutes. It will do wonders for your mind, your emotions, and even your spirit. Boredom, according to Psychology Today, didn't come into existence until the late 18th century. Before that time, people spent all their time making sure they had enough food to eat and a secure place to live. Boredom was irrelevant. That's not a term they used. Boredom became a thing when the Industrial Revolution started. So we can blame it on technology. This is another argument for boredom being circumstantial rather than emotional. I watched a show where a very wealthy family gets stripped of all their belongings because of lack of tax payments or something. I don't remember what it was. And everything is taken away from them except a small town that the dad purchased as a gag when he was really wealthy. So the family has to begin to live as normal people, actually getting jobs and paying for their food rather than putting it on non-existent credit cards. And they have to do that in this really small town where their lives were once filled with meaningless pursuits. They began to see what was really important to them, or what should be really important to them. And I tell you, it wasn't stuff or things, it was people and pursuing careers that were meaningful to them. Boredom has become a modern luxury in the same way that sugar and fast food addiction has become the affluent addiction. Boredom is a modern luxury because many haven't had to worry about money. And so they have the luxury of being bored. Sugar and fast food addiction is the affluent addiction because most of the world can't even afford to eat at the lowest priced fast food chains. Okay, so I'll get off that soapbox for a minute and address one last thing that is an advantage of boredom. Do you know anything good that can come from boredom? Consider this. When we are bored, we have time on our hands. We have an imagination. We have thinking skills. It is a perfect time to go forward towards whatever dream that we've had since we were kids. And what is that dream for you? You know, we've had like 3 months of boredom, 3 months of being stuck in our homes. Have you thought about what is the dream that God has placed in your heart? You know, it has been said that boredom can be a call to action or an impetus to achievement. When we are bored, we have time to think. We can go back over our lives and reflect on what we did or what we didn't do and make a plan to change whatever we can in the years we have remaining on this earth. It can be the kick in the pants we need to start our healthy living and lifestyle change plan. It can give us the time and space to work on ourselves, to develop our own mission statement and what we want for our lives to be like. So, are you bored? Then that's really awesome because it means you have time to work with God to make a miracle happen in your life. Now, God does have a bit to say about boredom. Proverbs 13:4 in the Message says it this way: indolence wants it all and gets nothing. The energetic have something to show for their lives. So indolence means avoidance of activity or exertion. So some synonyms for indolence are habitually idle, inactive, and listless, or I would say also bored. The truth is, when we are active, we don't have time to be bored. That's why I think boredom is less of an emotion and more of a motivation problem. We want to do something, but we don't want to put the effort towards actually doing that. And some of that may be due to circumstances, but if we are habitually bored at every turn, we need to examine then what are the emotions underneath the boredom. I have one of my coaching clients who is in her 70s, and she started out in my coaching group not being able to walk. You know, she could walk to the bathroom and back, and that was it. She was in a wheelchair for most of the time. She couldn't drive anymore. She didn't go anywhere. She was pretty much homebound. And so I challenged her to just to start walking a few steps each day with her goal of walking to her mailbox and back. And so that's what she did. She started doing that. And you know, today it's been several years since she's been in my group for a long time. She's lost almost 80 pounds, and she's not in her wheelchair anymore. She can drive. She has a volunteer job. She's living her life again. And yet, for so long, she allowed her circumstances to tell her you're bored and you're old and you can't do anything. So we have to rise above that and do what we can do, even if it's just a few steps a day. So are we sad due to financial, career, or relationship issues? Are we so frustrated with where our life is headed that we can't make a decision about what we need to do? Are we just waiting for God to break through and drop that answer into our lives? Proverbs 13:4 is pretty hard-hitting. In the NIV, it says, a sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desire of the diligent are fully satisfied. This doesn't speak directly to boredom, but what it does speak to is not knowing what we want. And so we eat whatever is there. Where those who have a plan for their lives and are following it are going to be fully satisfied. Now, this speaks to me on several fronts. To stave off boredom, to stave off lack of interest in going forward with any action plan, we need a clear vision. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. We know that scripture well. For many years, I struggled with trying to figure out what that meant. What was the vision for my life? Where was I headed? There were times I did volunteer jobs for free because I had the time and I could. But I was bored in those jobs. I didn't enjoy answering telephones or sitting for hours in board meetings when I could be writing, which is the main thing God has put in my heart to do. And then I came upon Habakkuk 2:2. And here is my version of that verse put together from several translations. And it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that those who read it may run with it. And that has become my life verse, my mission, my dream, my purpose. Whatever I am doing, my mission is to write, speak, articulate, or communicate the vision, the revelation, the prophecy, the guidance from God, or the message that God wants people to hear from me in an ordinary language, everyday language, so they can grab hold of it and really get it down in their hearts and their lives. When they do that, they're going to run with it. They're going to go with it. It's going to make a difference in their lives, and then they're going to tell others about it, and it will make a difference in theirs as well. The Living Bible puts it this way: write God's answer on a billboard, large and clear, so that anyone can read it at a glance and rush to tell the others. That's my purpose. That's what guides me. Right now, the message happens to be tied to my experience of losing over 250 pounds and the desire to help you and others who might be caught in the throes of food addiction. Anything we allow to control ourselves and our lives will. Anything we put in that place will control us if we allow it to. And that's why we need to replace boredom with a clear vision of what we want and where we are headed. With that vision firmly in mind, each day you live in order to fulfill that vision. And that's going to bring you clearer direction and purpose. Purpose and vision are some of the main deterrents to boredom. If you know why you're here, then you're going to have a plan. You need to have a plan of how to get there and what you need to be doing here on earth. I think many people are just sitting at home having no idea what they need to be doing because they have no idea of their vision or their purpose. And even if that vision is to find out what your purpose is, then be doing everything you can to find that out, to search the scriptures, to read good books, to ask God so that you will set your life on a path that is purpose driven. So, what is that vision for you? Like I said, start with the scripture that God is impressing on your heart and go from there. And I promise this journey with God will be far from boring if you let him lead you. He's going to lead you into some very interesting places where you can't be bored. Now, many states and areas are opening up from the pandemic, it might still not be over, but it is subsiding. So if you are ready to step out of boredom and learn more about how to lose weight and live healthy and get closer to God at the same time, I'd love for you to join Overcomers Christian Weight Loss Academy. Doors are open now, but be sure when you join to apply the coupon code and you'll get some dollars off of the monthly cost. Every month you'll get that same amount off. Simply go to teresashieldsparker.com and Overcomers Christian Weight Loss Academy. I'll put that link down in the show notes. I'm also going to put down in the show notes my email address that I mentioned before. So if you want to send me a message about any questions or any concepts or any areas you would like for me to discuss, please be sure to, on this podcast, please be sure to send that to me via info@teresashieldsparker.com and put podcast in the subject line. Okay? Thanks again for listening, and until next week, sweet grace for your journey.